Who do you think is a better footballer, Messi or Ronaldo? If you one day wake up as Sunilchettri, what is the first thing you're gonna do? Who, according to you, is the most promising upcoming footballer in India? Hello everyone, my name is Sayanta and welcome back to another episode of SporTank Originals. And as I had promised in the very first episode, that this is a podcast where you will learn a lot. Every single episode of this podcast will be a huge learning curve. And therefore, to keep up with our promise, we have invited a very special guest today. Today we have Mr. Roshan Shetty with us in our show. Roshan sir is a star sports broadcaster and a commentator, somebody who's been an absolute inspirational figure for me, somebody who is a stalwart of the sports broadcasting industry, and somebody who can captivate and mesmerize you with his aura and charisma whenever he is in front of the screen. So thank you so much, Roshan Shetty sir, for coming in our show today. It's an absolute privilege to be the host when you are here.
Thank you, Sayanta. Thank you for that brilliant introduction, and so good to see you again. And
Yeah.
I hope, of course, we have a good time now.
Absolutely, sir. A lot of people are looking forward to this episode. I am looking forward to a wholesome conversation with you today. But before starting, sir, I wanted to ask you, how exactly are you doing right now?
I've been fit, fine, and trying my level best to, of course, move after this
Yeah.
entire pandemic thing, and
Hmm.
just trying my level best, with all guns.
Yeah, so I'll come to the pandemic part, but I wanted to touch upon the enigmatic topic of sports broadcasting, sir. Sir, whenever I have a conversation with my friends, because they know I'm very passionate about anchoring, I'm very passionate about public speaking, about sports broadcasting. So whenever they ask me about who are my favorite broadcasters, who are my favorite commentators, I always take your name because I absolutely get swooned over by your voice whenever you're in front of the screen. So I wanted to ask you, how has this journey started for you? Because I remember when we were doing the sports broadcasting course, which is organized by Kolan and you a couple of months back, in one of the classes you had mentioned that in one of the commentary stints with Sunil Chetri in your college Symbiosis School for Sports Sciences, he had actually told you to take up sports broadcasting. So if you could touch upon that topic and if you could tell us, how did everything pan out for you?
So, Shanta, before I started out as my journey as a sports commentator, I was into the field, into the broadcast, into the domain of sports management, and I was a sports event manager. I was doing a lot of local. I was organizing a lot of local games in Pune, and after doing a couple of them, I got a chance to, of course, organize one in Symbiosis itself. This was not, of course, during my time at the Symbiosis School of Sports Science. It was way before it. This was at the year of, I think, 2012, 2013.
Okay.
So, of course, as a part and parcel of my work with them, with a company which I was working with called as Sport I Love, which is run by Mr. Amay Odekar, who's a family of the Symbiosis family. I happened to come across, there was this event called as the Blackburn Rovers Talent Hunt. So where we had to pick a few children or a few players from here to take them out to UK, to train them in UK. And that's when, of course, I got to know that Sunil Chetri, before that, of course, Baichung Bhutia was supposed to come. And then in the second edition, it was Sunil Chetri who was supposed to be as the guest and who was basically as a jury member there who would be picking up the final few players who are going to go to the UK. Now, as a part of my work, I first had to deal with all my management work of the event. All right. So I made sure that I do all of it well in advance. Okay. So that I get time to sit alongside him and, of course, call a couple of games right in front of him. And that is where, of course, I had Sunil Chetri, I had Sunil Bhai, of course, I had Robin Singh, I had Curtis Ozano, all of these Bengaluru players at that point in time. Who were right besides me. So then, of course, that is where I thought, okay, I got some free time. I think I've done all my work, with respect to the event that was going on. I think now I can sit and talk about the game, and that's where, of course, I just started talking about the game. But just to give you an idea, before that, of course, I was doing a lot of local tournaments in Pune, but it was never like a like a hardened idea that okay, I have to do commentary. There was nothing like that. It was just that I just want to enjoy the game. If I can't play, I just have to go there and enjoy the game. And that's how eventually this idea started coming up. So I did all my work of the tournament of the Blackburn Rovers talent hunt, and then I was there, and then I just started talking about the game, and that is where, of course, Sunil Bhai and Robin Singh was there, Curtis was there. They all of them joining in the conversation, and then I realized, that when I was calling out the game, I had a good interaction with Sunil Bhai, I had a good interaction with Robin Singh, and all of them. Then I realized I got this confidence that, look, okay, I think if I can do it here, I think I can take it, to a level higher. And then I got to hear, of course, the golden words from Sunil Bhai saying that I should probably try, a hand in commentary and probably try it out as a career. And that is, of course, was the first stepping stone of my little career that I have done, whatever I've done in the broadcasting industry as of now. And that's how it started. So yeah, just to give you that answer of how the magical start it was. This is how it started.
Wow, that's absolutely a fairy tale start. But I think more importantly, this is a very important word of advice which you gave in the course as well. And plus, you wrote it out in this episode that people should actually love the sport more than actually, wanting to be a commentator or to be a journalist. If they actually love the sport, if they have the passion for the sport, everything else will fall into place. And but sir, I wanted to ask you one thing. I mean, you said that you were a sports management person involved in organizing a lot of events, and then you moved to sports broadcasting. But I know whenever I have a lot of conversations with people, a lot of people say that the ones who are good event managers, sometimes they're not good broadcasters. Similarly, some good broadcasters are not good event managers. But you're somebody, I feel that you're equally good in both. So was it a transition for you when you moved to broadcasting, or you felt that there was no transition, it was meant to be?
I won't say it was meant to be, honestly. Of course, these are two different domains altogether. When you talk about sports management and when you talk about sports broadcasting, uh, one side you are just dealing with a lot of things. I have my own sports company which I am running, and then then there is another switch which happens in me as a personality when I do sports. When I come into being a sports broadcaster, so to answer that question, of course, it was. I won't say it was an easy transition, of course, but I have to completely keep switching from one point to the other completely when I'm doing the role of a sports manager, when I'm leading my company, and then cut to being a sports broadcaster. So I don't think it was an easy transition, but yeah, having said that, I think I've enjoyed doing both. Given at its own respective time. And yeah, of course, when the nature of work calls, I try to switch that personality quickly and be whatever, or whatever the demand is, I try to get into it.
Sir, I feel that there's been a tremendous digital boom that is happening over the past couple of years because of the pandemic, and also because people prefer to watch movies, to watch web series from the comfort of their homes. And I feel it is fair to say that with the passage of time and with the advent of some platforms like Netflix, Amazon, Hotstar, we might just see that there are more web series, more TV shows than actually people going to cinema halls. And you've been the host of a very popular web series called The Five, alongside Emmy Award winner Mick Kazarowski. So I'm guessing it must be a very wholesome experience, and you've had a lot of learnings on the way. If you could point out some of the learnings from that particular stint as a web series host.
Absolutely, Shant. I think what the point you mentioned about all of the things, going digital, in a way. My stint with working with Mick, of course, this is back in 2014. And Mick, of course, came in from a background of an ex-Discovery and ex-Animal Planet executive producer. So he basically started off his own production called as Bangkok Swagger Productions. And he wanted to shoot some of the most exotic places in India. He wanted to show India to the world in his own way. And that's where, of course, he came into India, and there was an audition which was there for one of the shows which he was going to host alongside a couple of more shows which he had. And I, of course, gave him the audition, and he liked me with the kind of with the kind of energy that I was bringing into his show, and I got a chance to work alongside him. The one thing which I believe. Which I got to learn from him was the idea of being a professional. This was, again, I was very young back then. This was in 2013, 2014, and the entire idea, the way you should present yourself on the work day, this entire thing, how you should go forward and how should you conduct yourself when you're shooting for any particular thing, is I got to learn from Mick, because the kind of professionalism, and in fact he was the one. I used to watch his shows. as a child. You talk about some of the most popular shows, River Monsters, Meerkat Manor, a lot of these shows. So
Yeah.
it was, of course, a surreal feeling, to work with a person who has made all these iconic shows, which is, of course, popular across the globe. So there is one thing which you get is you learn the idea of respecting that person, who is going to come. And of course, sometimes it can be intimidating. Sometimes it certainly can be intimidating with his presence around. But once you get in the skin of your character, of what you're planning to do, then of course it gets comfortable. And Mick, of course, was someone who made me very comfortable. When we were on the sets trying to work around. I of course had a co-host who was from Canada, who was working with me as a part of the web series in one of the web series which we're supposed to do. And I think it has been an overall a great learning curve for me with respect to how do you kind of conduct yourself, and if of course, there are sometimes when you get in pressure of working. But Mick was someone, who made me completely ease of that pressure when you're working with a stalwart like him. So these are, of course, a couple of things. And about the digital thing which you told, you won't believe, Shanta, when Mick came here in India, this was back in 2014, he told me that there would be a time where probably TV could go obsolete. This is back in 2013, 2014. I'm like, oh no, I still don't believe that, because cinema halls, TVs, like you said, digital, they have a very, very big impact, to the society at large. And I believe it's a little tough for, to kind of completely for it to, go off or go away. Okay, but of course, looking at the digital influence that the things like Netflix, you just said, Amazon Prime, all of these things have. Of course, it has made content come to you, unlike you going to content earlier. But I don't think that it'll completely take it off. Of course, when you want to see a film in a theater, you would want that experience rather than watching it at your house. So that's something, of course, which is always going to be there.
So I feel the highlights and the takeaways of this part of the podcast is that he taught you professionalism a lot. And like you said, that probably digital media cannot completely take over, because there's a completely separate immersive feeling when you're going to a theater, because the sound quality is much better. It's a whole professional environment. But sir, you mentioned about you giving an audition before working with him. I wanted to ask you, sir, like during these times, like for young broadcasters, for young aspirants like us, do you feel that there are auditions still going on and then we should go about with that? Or do you feel that we should actually send our clips to different people, or maybe podcast links to different people, to talent hunt managers?
See, it's a tough thing to answer, honestly, Shanta. You don't know. See, it's just about being, or rather knowing what's going on in the industry. Okay, when you're connecting to people, you must know what exactly is going on. If you, like, for example, you need to forecast. If you let's say that the Pro Kabaddi League is supposed to come. Okay, now you need to know that these tournaments or these events are going to happen. So when there are new tournaments coming up, of course there would be requirement for commentators, there would be requirement for presenters. So that's how you need to be aware about your surroundings of what exactly is going on. And if you, let's say, get to read or get to know that, okay, there could be a new league which is coming up, so you then need to try to reach out to the potential people who could be there, who could be a part of the league or part of the broadcast team. Okay, you may get some links which may kind of put you out through to these people. But like I told you, earlier as well, that this is not something which is very open. Okay, very rarely it will kind of happen that, okay, we are looking out for commentators in open this thing. But for professional setups or for professional channels, I don't see that happening very often. That you will have probably, let's say, Harsha ki Khoj that used to happen, earlier on, things like that. You would not have those kind of things very often. So you need to keep you need to be aware about what's happening around. You need to be a little smart about how to go about with these things. And eventually, of course, you will find one opportunity where you can, kind of go forward and, show it to the world that what you have, with you.
Got it. So basically, networking is a very important part. And like you said, that we need to make that push more than actually them coming to us. It's us who have to make the first step, us who have to actually take that next step, and then we can come about it. So thank you so much for that insight, sir. Now, sir, I wanted to delve into one topic which actually fascinates me a lot, because I feel that for young aspirants, for young presenters, for young commentators like us, there's a saying that the end goal is actually to work in a very big organization like Star Sports. Our end goal is to work in a very big organization like Sony 6 Network, because they are content powerhouses right now and they are ruling the roost right now. So I wanted to ask you, since you've been a Star Sports broadcaster and commentator over there, how did your journey start over there? I mean, how did you break the roost over there?
Shraddha, I have constantly first, what the idea for me is to get recognition at least at a local level. Okay, if not the national level. You can't just go big. You can't just go, start, okay, I want to be a commentator. It's good to have a dream. Okay, but having said that, you need to start somewhere. So for me, the first, I of course had the dream that, okay, one day probably I would get to work with ESPN Star or get to work with some other similar kind of network. But I did not think of it as an immediate step. Okay, I first tried to create about a name in my vicinity. Okay, I tried to create some popularity in my own area first, and then of course in my own city. So I went across to a lot of these places where I was even uncalled for that matter, to be honest. But I went there and I got this confidence that, okay, one day I would probably go there, I'll probably get there. All right, this was in 2011, 2012. I was constantly trying to do something. For me, it was all about adding value to wherever I go, rather than
Hmm.
just being a commentator there. Once I started out, of course, this was back in 2013, 2014, where I was confident that, okay, look, I can pull about tournaments in Pune. And like I told you about this one time that I got to spend time with Sunilchettri by alongside him, and who's talking alongside me in the commentary box. So that gave me immense confidence, and then I thought, okay, now probably I'm ready for this push a notch higher.
Hmm.
And then of course I started with the Reliance Foundation Youth Sports in 2016. I was called in for an audition. That time, of course, it was the games were live streaming on Facebook at that point in time. And then eventually I was consistent with my work, which is the key. I was very consistent with my work and with my voice and with everything that I was doing. Of course, there were a lot of games. There were 4 games, 5 games in a day. It was very tiring. But at the end of the day, it was that burning desire in me which was keeping me alive to do whatever I'm doing. Okay, because I know sometimes it can get frustrating with you're not getting where you want to, but you need to stick around. You need to stick around because the opportunities are lurking nearby. You don't know when it's going to come. So 2016, 2017, I guess I was called for a Pro Kabaddi League workshop where I got to work alongside someone like an RK and a lot of these different people who are now of course calling the shots for the Pro Kabaddi League, Sohail Chandok and all of them. So that was of course the first time that I got a glimpse of how things can be at the biggest level.
Hmm.
Okay, I did a lot of workshops for Pro Kabaddi League, and then my primary sport was football. Okay, I was covering football. I was after the Reliance Foundation Youth Sports, I was called to cover the I League, which was happening, of course. That it was the top notch league back in India back then, before the ISL got into the mainstream. Then eventually, when I was doing it, I made a name for myself, nationally, and I knew that it's just a matter of time that I get to go to Star Sports or I get to Sony, things like that. I
Hmm.
already was working for 10 Sports, if you remember the channel back then. I was already
Hmm.
working for 10 Sports back then. I was doing all their online games. I was doing the I League for that matter. And then, of course, it was decided that one day that the Reliance Foundation Youth Sports, the finals and the entire games are going to be aired on Star Sports. So of course
Hmm.
I was the first choice there. I was the person. Okay, he has been doing it since the past couple of years. He knows the tournament in and out, so he would of course be getting the opportunity. So I never got disheartened. I never said that okay, look, I'm not getting an opportunity or things like that. I kept going forward. I knew that okay, I want to do this for my love of the sport. Okay, and that's what eventually paved my way into Star Sports. And then of course I ended up doing the I League. I ended up doing the Premier League and Hero Indian Super League youth games. And once you kind of break the roof there, then you'll start getting opportunities. With time.
Wow, that's actually a very inspiring and a heartwarming journey. That things didn't happen overnight. You were consistent, and the moment you actually made a name for yourself, you went through the grind, you actually rose through the ranks, and that is how you made it big over there. I think this is an inspirational part of the podcast. I'm going to take a snippet of this podcast and post it everywhere because I feel that this is essentially going to be the highlight of the podcast, how you actually made it big, and nothing happens overnight, and then it's not going to be a gift which you give to someone. You made a name for yourself, and that is how you got it. That's actually very
Absolutely.
thought provoking. Thank you so much, Roshan sir. Now, sir, I feel that the kind of times we are actually going through, these are extraordinary times, very testing times. I feel that there's a paradigm shift in everyone's mindset, in everyone's perspective. I have had a lot of learnings. I feel that the kind of person I was before the pandemic, I can't even relate to that person. So I'm guessing that this has happened with you as well. There have been some learnings, some perspective changes during this pandemic in the last 1.5 years, in the last 2 years. So if you could tell us what made you actually think during this pandemic, what has been your single greatest learning during this coronavirus pandemic?
I won't say probably a single biggest learning. There were a lot of them, honestly, and there were
Mhm.
different phases. So there were a lot of people around me who had to face the wrath of the pandemic. There were a lot of issues going around. So the one thing which I really learned is being grateful for what you have, rather than always wanting something. Be grateful for what God has given you. Always be thankful to what you've got, because a lot of them don't even have that. So
Mm.
that's the first thing that I had in my mind, that I should really be grateful. Of course, you have gratitude for the things that I've been blessed by, from God. But having said that, you need to be aware that you are probably enjoying a life which not many are.
Yeah.
And that thing in itself, of course, got the idea gave me the idea that I should be very thankful to whatever I have. The other couple of things, of course, was I learned to adapt. You have to have the idea of adapting quickly, because times are changing constantly. Okay, and if you stick around to just being adamant about the fact that you don't want to change, you're probably going to be left behind. Okay,
Right.
the idea of adaptability is something which you have to keep moving forward. A lot of people came up with a lot of things on on YouTube, on this, on that. A lot of different things were happening, because like I told you, the opportunities were stuck in in the last couple of years before all the sports events, of course, started again. So the idea of adapting was something which I really got to, I won't say learn, but I got to relearn. I'll put it that way. And the emphasis on the idea of adapting was more hitting to me, rather than what it was probably before the pandemic. These are a couple of things, and a lot of other things of being, like I said, being thankful to your family members, being thankful to the people around you, for the few people who really care for you. That's something which the idea of always being grateful to whatever you have had is something which is being the biggest eye opener for me during these times.
Got it. So gratification is one of the key takeaways you've had, and adaptability. I feel that because, nobody else would have actually thought that, they have to give an audition through YouTube or through links like this, because as you said that even you never believed that TV could have actually been completely obsolete. Even that thing is there. So adaptability is also a very key factor, like you said. And I really hope that things actually become better and we can actually go back to proper commentary from outside, and we do not have a virtual meeting like this we're having right now. But so moving on to the next question, Roshan sir, I feel that you are a born leader, because I feel that you're brimming with a lot of leadership skills, because the course which we did by Colon, I felt the way you actually made sure things happen, that in itself proves that you have that capability in yourself to be a good leader. So is it, one of the reasons why you started Sportitude, or you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur from before as well? Has that leadership skills actually helped you perform well as an entrepreneur while you started your own company, Sportitude?
See, there were a couple of reasons. The first thing, of course, leadership is something for me which comes in from my family. I have had a
Mm.
family who have had elected representatives since the past 40 odd years. Okay, so
Okay.
that's something which I always I won't say leadership does not come in, but you have to develop those qualities. But you have it at the back of your mind when you learn from your parents, you learn from your family members of how they have led, and they have successfully led. So this
Mm.
was something. But for me, my outlet was sports always. For me, sports was always my outlet. Being a player myself at one point in time, and then that shift from being a player to, let's say, an event manager, or then a broadcaster for that matter, I always wanted to kind of initiate something which can bring about an impact to people's life. Okay, that's where I believe I can add in value. So of course, there was a lot of gaps which I could identify back then, when sports was just growing, was just nascent. We did not have the leagues back before 2014, and a couple of years back down there. So for me, it was about identifying those gaps, and bringing forward those things which we as sportsmen could not get. A lot of opportunities for younger kids. So the idea of leadership, I try to convert it into an outlet through sports. And I wanted to work in a very independent way, where I could try and test and fail, and do a lot of different things. I don't care if I fail. I've always told this, but you can't fail at somebody else's expense. If you have to fail, you have to fail at your own expense. You can't go to anybody. I mean, of course, failing is good. I love failing. I've failed more than I've got succeeded. But the pleasure is good if you fail at your own expense. You can blame yourself for that. All right.
Mm.
So that initially led me to starting out an initiative called Sportitude, of course, which is added, which comes with an addition of called sport and attitude. You mix it together, it becomes
Mm.
Sportitude. And I thought, okay, the one thing which I could not get as a sportsman was opportunities, was exposure. So through my initiative, I thought, let's give the kids of today some opportunity where they can play, and if they are good enough, I can kind of make a system for them, or more than saying we could make a system for them where these kids can come and display their talent, and if they reach the desired destination, I believe that we have done our jobs well. So that the entire idea of starting Sportitude came about with a couple of these things that happened across me.
Got it. So basically, since you've been a sports person yourself, you know where the flaws and the loopholes have been. I mean, getting opportunities, getting that right kind of exposure has been missing at a lot of grassroots level. And I think that is what your organization is primarily targeting. And I'm going to link Sportytude below. Thank you for that wonderful insight. And I really hope it takes off in the coming years, sir. Now moving on to the most anticipated part of the podcast. I feel this is going to be the most amusing part, the fun part, and this is going to be a rapid fire round. So ideally, sir, you don't get much time to answer. Anything that comes up to your mind, you're going to answer. Let's go about with it, sir.
All right.
The first question, sir. Who do you think is a better footballer, Messi or Ronaldo?
I've been an out and out Ronaldo fan because I've been a
Ronaldo fan.
Manchester United fan. So yeah, I've always been a Ronaldo
Got
fan.
it. So that's a heartbreak for a lot of Messi fans. But moving on to the next question, what is your
But, you
favorite?
know, I believe,
Yeah.
you know, we are very lucky to be in a generation where you have two of the best in the world competing for, you know, probably 2 or decades continuously. You know, you don't get players at that stretch who are going to play so far off. So, you know, I think we as a generation should be very lucky that we got to see both of them playing and, you know, wanting a piece of them every single day. So that's something which I can always cherish.
Yeah, because when they hang up their boots, I think it's going to be the end of an era. And in my opinion, I don't think so. We're going to see two more talismanic strikers than these two people, two magicians with the ball who can simply weave magic. So, as you said, we're really grateful for the times we are actually watching. And
Right.
so, moving on to the next question, what is your favorite sports movie of all time? Some movie that has inspired you a lot. Your sports movie.
I think the Rocky series.
The Rocky series.
The Rocky series. That's something which I have taken great inspiration from. I always, you know, go forward with a lot of quotes which were said by him, and you know the way he. And the most important thing is that the kind of influence which his coach had on him. That's something which is
Yeah.
very close to me because I also come from a very a guru shishya relationship because I had a guru myself who made whatever I am today. So I'm really thankful to him. So that's why that movie is very close to me.
Got it. Okay. So next is, if you one day wake up as Sunil Chetri, what is the first thing you're gonna do?
Oh God, waking up as Sunil Chetri, I don't know. Probably I will. Oh man, you caught me off guard, man. Because waking up as Sunil Chetri, I will probably. I got no answer to this. But yeah, of course, if I get to be Sunil Chetri, I'll probably go for a couple of cheat meals because he does
Cheat
not,
meals,
as far
yeah.
as I know. Yep.
The kind of physique he has, I don't think so he has any cheat meal. Stringent diet.
37, 36, and you know, so fit that he could probably put a 21-year, 22-year-old to shame with his fitness. So yeah, totally go on a cheat meal.
Got it. Okay. Cheat meal you're gonna go about. Okay. Next is, sir, I feel this is one question that's gonna be very dear to you. If you had to choose between being a broadcaster and an entrepreneur, which one would you choose?
Huh. I'll choose something which makes me happy, honestly. I mean, there is
Okay.
no, like, for me, it's all about being happy, whether it's being a broadcaster or a sports
Hmm.
entrepreneur. But, you know, when you have a name, when you have an identity across as a sports broadcaster, it's very easy to say it's sports broadcasting. But I've
Hmm.
always had my love for both in a way because I've always seen myself being happy there. So, you know,
Hmm.
if I believe that I'm not happy at a place, I would probably take back. But happiness is where I choose always.
Got it. I think this is very golden advices for everyone. Everyone, whatever, whoever's doing something in life, happiness is of paramount importance. I think that should be the deciding factor always. The last question, sir. Who, according to you, is the most promising upcoming footballer in India who's got a huge future ahead?
A lot of them, honestly, Shanta. I mean, after you know the 2017 you know FIFA World Cup, the Under 17 World Cup, you know, it opened up the doors for a lot of youngsters. There are so many of them right now. You know, you have someone like Anikesh Jadhav, you have Komal Thatal, you have so many of these you know young aspiring footballers, and you have Manveer Singh. A lot. I can name a lot of them. But you know, the thing is that these footballers have a lot of opportunities now, unlike before. So that's something which you know, for me as a football fan, more you know, before being a broadcaster or a sports manager, that's something, you know, which really makes me happy. But to name a few, of course, like I told you, there's so many young footballers from across India, you know, who are really making us proud. You have Abdul Sal Samad, you have so many young footballers. There's not one that I
Got
can
it.
kind of place in. Yeah.
Okay. Got it, sir. Thank you so much, Roshan sir. With that, we come to an end to episode 3. It was one of the most wholesome conversations I've had in this podcast so far. Thank you so much, Roshan sir. It was a privilege and honor to host you. But before going, I want you to say something. I mean, if one advice you had to give to your 20-year-old Roshan Shetty, who's trying to break into the scene, who's trying to break into the media world, wants to make a mark, wants to leave an imprint, any piece of advice you would like to give to your 20-year-old Roshan?
20-year-old Roshan, oh God. I would probably say that I needed to live more. I would not say live more, but there was something that I was very full fledged into my journey. Full fledged into my career. There were a lot of sacrifices which come with it. All right, so I probably would say let's go a little easy rather than going full. So let's live a little as well as along with pursuing all your dreams as well. So that's something that I will have to tell my 20-year-old.
Got it. I was cheeky enough to put 20 because I'm 20 myself. So I wanted a little bit of advice
So
for
you got it
myself
now.
as well. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for taking time. And with that, we come to an end. I hope you had an amazing time today. And with that,
Thank
we
you.
come to an end.
Thank you, Sayanta. Great initiative, and I wish you all the very best for all your future episodes.
Thank you so much, sir. That really means a lot. Thank you. Have a nice day.